Hi guys, this is Tori. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Today, I'm going to give a full review of the live action How to Train Your Dragon. There will be spoilers, so if you haven't seen the animated version or you haven't seen the live action yet and you don't want to be spoiled in any way, come back to this video later. Let's get started. As you can see, I am wearing a toothless hoodie. It has his eyes on the hood, his detail along the hood. It's got a little drawing of him on the chest, and then when you stick your arms out, you can see wings. I got this at Hot Topic. It is also available through Her Universe. Go check it out if you want to. So I saw the movie last night, Thursday night, at my local theater. And I've seen a couple live action remake movies by Disney. Some are good, some are okay, but most are big flops. So when this movie was announced, I was honestly hesitant because I'm a diehard fan of the animated trilogy. But this remake blew every live action remake I've ever seen out of the water. I was hooked from the minute the DreamWorks logo was on the screen. I literally put down my popcorn and did not eat any popcorn for the rest of the movie because I was in it from the minute it started. Some people think the beginning scenes are kind of slow. Personally, I disagree because it starts with the dragons attacking Burke. So it starts with a big action sequence. I did miss that they didn't do the full monologue that Hiccup gives in the animated. They kind of just cut a lot of that out, so that was a little disappointing. And they did skip the introduction of all the other young characters other than Astrid, because in the animated he says, this is Fish Legs, this is Snotlout, those are the twins Rough Nut and Tough Nut, and then he gets all excited when Astrid comes on the screen. But he just kind of introduces the group as the Fire Brigade led by Astrid, so everybody else kind of gets not introduced in their own individual way like in the animated. But basically after that, it is pretty much a shot for shot. In the beginning, they did expand a bit on Hiccup's relationship with his father Stoic, which I appreciated because that's kind of one of the main storylines of the entire film. And then they also did add in more about Snotlout and his relationship with his father, which I'm like, okay, are they going to expand upon that in the second movie, which we already know is coming out in 2027, and then potentially in the third one, if that does come out at a later date? I don't know, because in the animated, Snotlout is more show-offish. He's flirting with Astrid, he's asking her to come over, he's just kind of the show-offy guy who's trying to be the hot shot of the group. But he didn't really seem that exaggerated in the live action, which I kind of appreciated. And I liked the twins. They didn't make them seem quite as immature as they seemed in the animated. And then they made the joke that, oh, our mom can't even tell us apart even though we're twins. And you can tell between the actor and the actress playing the brother and sister that they do not look absolutely identical. So that was kind of funny. And Fish Legs was pretty much almost exactly the way he was in the animated. Kind of like a kid who was obsessed with trading cards, Pokemon cards back in the day, where it's like, I'm just going to spout off all these stats because this is what I'm interested in, even if nobody else cares or wants to hear. He's that kind of character. And in the animated, and that's what they did in the live action pretty much. And then the sequences where Hiccup attacks Toothless and then finds Toothless, bonds with Toothless, and flies with Toothless, they're basically a shot for shot of the animated. And oh my goodness, I cried during test drive. I've been listening to the original song from the animated for months since I knew this movie was coming out. And then once they released the new version from this movie, that was pretty much the only song I ever listened to coming up till now. And the relationship that Hiccup builds with Astrid once she finds out about Toothless is basically the same as the animation, if not, in my opinion, stronger. And the dragons look like you could literally reach through the screen and touch them. It is just absolutely insane. Like, you would think dragons are real. And Toothless still has that kind of animated, goofy, silly cat, dog, pet-like quality to him that he had in the animated, but he still looked like something that you could reach out and touch with your hands. Like, you could go find him out in the real world, even though you actually can't. Yeah, everything was just amazing, and when they brought out the Red Death, I believe is the name of the alpha in this particular film, oh my goodness, that thing was a behemoth. And the fire and the fighting at the nest, or technically outside of the nest, was just mind-boggling. Like, it was intense in the animated, but to see it with real people, CGI dragons, real Viking ships, yeah, it's just wow. That is all I can say is wow. And then I was worried that they weren't going to do what they did at the end of the original animated movie, where Hiccup loses a part of his leg so that he basically matches Toothless not having a part of his tail wing. But they did it. And not only did they do it, they pretty much made the live action prosthetic leg look almost exactly like the animated prosthetic leg. This movie just blew my mind. And there is a post-credit scene, but it's not like a big revelation thing where if you miss it, you're gonna be like, I missed something big. What did I miss? It's not epic like that. If you miss it, it's not that big of a deal. But I did like the songs that they played in the credits, but I do wish they had done the song that they did at the end of the animated. But I can understand why they picked the music that they did for the credits in this version. It had a very Viking, European choir type feeling. And basically, the animated movies were made mostly for kids, and then for adults that maybe had kids at the time, or kids that became adults during the original trilogy, whereas this movie is more for older kids, young adults, and adults. I would say unless your kid is very used to a movie like this, I wouldn't take little kids, because this might freak them out if they're sensitive to intense action or things like live action dragons that seem real. But I'm just glad that for this live action, the director was someone who was behind all three of the animated movies, which seems to be the problem with other live action movies, is they don't have the same director, or the director isn't involved in any way with the live action. So you've got somebody trying to basically replicate somebody else's work and take their own ideas and change like everything. And then it just does not work. So if I had to give this movie a rating on a scale of 1 to 10, honestly, at the end of the movie, I wanted to say 10 out of 10. But now that I've had a little bit of time to think, I would say probably a 9.5. This is a movie that when it comes out on DVD, Blu-ray, digital, streaming, I will be getting every version I can get my hands on. And I will be going to see How to Train Your Dragon 2 in the summer of 2027. And if they do How to Train Your Dragon The Hidden World in hopefully 2029, I will be there for that one too. So if you think that DreamWorks has caught Disney-itis and that this live action is going to be like a Disney flop, that is not the case. I can tell you that right now. That is not the case. This is a basically shot-for-shot movie that expanded upon what already existed, rather than changing storylines, removing characters, adding in unnecessary characters that don't really serve a purpose to the main storyline. This is a big deal, and this is a great film. So if you're a fan of the animated series, I would highly recommend going to see the live action movie. Buy the merch. If you're a really big fan like me, I love Toothless. I love How to Train Your Dragon. So thank you, Universal. Thank you, DreamWorks. Thank you, Dean. Thank you to anyone who worked on this film. You did amazing work, and I can't wait to see what happens with How to Train Your Dragon 2 in 2 years. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.